You crossed the line the moment you mistook her forgiveness for permission to keep hurting the softest parts of her. That is the truth most people learn too late. An empath woman can forgive more than people imagine. She can forgive confusion. She can forgive fear. She can forgive emotional immaturity. She can forgive a bad day, a sharp tone, a moment of weakness, a wound that spoke before wisdom arrived. She can sit with someone's pain and still search for the human underneath the behavior. She can see why someone became guarded, why they became defensive, why they became distant, why they learned to protect themselves in ways that hurt other people. But there is a line, and once someone crosses it, the empath does not become loud first. She becomes still. That stillness is the part people misunderstand. They think she has no reaction because she has no feelings left. They think her silence means she has moved on quickly. They think because she is calm, the damage was not deep, but they do not know the truth. An empath goes quiet when the heart is seen enough to stop arguing with reality. She does not stop loving in 1 second. She stops offering the old access. She stops explaining the same wound to the same person. She stops turning her pain into paragraphs for someone who keeps treating her pain like an inconvenience. She stops trying to prove that her softness deserves care. And the line is crossed when someone knows what hurts her and chooses to do it anyway. That is different from a mistake. That is different from not knowing. That is different from being imperfect. When she has already told you, this hurts me, and you repeat it, something changes. When she has already told you, please do not use silence to punish me, and you disappear again, something changes. When she has already told you, do not mock my sensitivity, and you use it as a joke, something changes. When she has already shown you the wound, and you step on it during conflict, something sacred inside her closes. Not because she is bitter, because she finally understands what you do with access. There is a woman lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying the same sentence over and over. The room is dark. The phone is beside her. Her chest feels heavy in that familiar way. She is not only thinking about what was said, she is thinking about the fact that they knew that word would hurt her. They knew that silence would trigger her. They knew that comparison would make her feel small. They knew that dismissing her feelings would take her back to every room where she was told she was too much. And still they did it. That is the line, not the wound itself, the knowledge behind the wound. Because empaths can forgive pain when it is accidental. They can forgive someone learning. They can forgive someone growing. They can forgive a person who makes a mistake and then becomes more careful. But when someone uses information as a weapon, when someone turns vulnerability into control, when someone repeats what they already know breaks her, the empath does not see it as simple hurt anymore. She sees it as a warning. And once she sees the warning, she cannot unsee it. The old version of her might have tried to explain. She would have picked up the phone and typed the long message, the careful message, the message that says, I know you probably did not mean it like that. The message that says, I am not trying to blame you. The message that says, I just want you to understand why it hurt. But halfway through, her fingers stop because a deeper truth rises inside her. How many times do I have to explain pain to someone who already knows where it lives? That question changes everything. She deletes the message, not because she has no feelings, because she finally has self-respect standing beside them. That is what people do not understand about empath women. They are not weak because they forgive. They are not foolish because they give chances. They are not blind because they see the good in people. Most of the time, they see more than they say. They notice the pattern. They notice the shift in tone. They notice who only apologizes when access is slipping. They notice who becomes soft after being cruel, not because they changed, but because they sensed consequence. They notice they just hope. And hope is the place where many empaths stay too long. They hope the person will finally understand. They hope the apology will become behavior. They hope the love underneath the chaos will become stronger than the fear, stronger than the ego, stronger than the habit of hurting. They hope because they know what it feels like to be misunderstood, and they do not want to give up on someone too soon. But hope becomes dangerous when it asks her to ignore evidence. Hope becomes a cage when it keeps her loyal to potential, while her nervous system is begging for peace. There is a woman sitting across from someone at dinner. The table is set. The room looks normal. Nothing dramatic is happening. But the energy is cold, that kind of cold that does not need volume to wound. He or she is there physically but emotionally far away. The empath tries to stay calm. She asks gently, are you okay? The answer comes back flat, I'm fine. But she feels the punishment underneath it. She feels the distance being used. She feels the conversation becoming a locked door. And suddenly, she is not only at that table. She is every younger version of herself who had to read moods to feel safe. She is the child who learned to stay small when the room felt tense. She is the woman who learned that love could be present in body and absent in spirit. A shared bed can still feel colder than an empty room. Full table can still feel lonely when someone uses silence as control. Being alone is not what broke her. Being unseen beside someone did. That is why the line matters. Because the empath is not only reacting to one moment, she is protecting the part of herself that has been here before. She has felt this exact kind of abandonment in different rooms, different voices, different names, different relationships. She knows what it feels like to be physically close and emotionally starving. So when someone crosses the line, they are not only hurting the adult woman, they are reaching the younger wound she trusted them not to touch. And that is why forgiveness changes after that. Before the line is crossed, forgiveness feels like hope. After the line is crossed, forgiveness becomes distance. She may forgive you in her heart. She may not wish you harm. She may understand your wound. She may even pray that you heal, but she will not give you the same access to the part of her you mishandled. Forgiveness is not the same as restored closeness. Forgiveness is not a door automatically reopening. Forgiveness is not a woman betraying her nervous system so someone else can feel absolved. Forgiveness means she refuses to carry poison. Boundaries mean she refuses to drink it again. And that is where people become confused. They say, but I apologize. They say, why are you still acting different? They say, you never let anything go. They say, you changed. They say, you are not as soft as before. Yes, she changed because the apology did not erase the pattern. Because sorry did not protect the wound, because her body remembered what her heart tried to excuse, because she finally realized that some people do not want forgiveness to heal the relationship. They want forgiveness to erase consequence. That is not repair. That is reset. Repair says, I understand what I did and I will become safe around the place I hurt. Reset says, can we go back to normal so I do not have to feel uncomfortable? Repair changes behavior. Red shit changes mood. Repair respects the wound. Red shit rushes the wound. Repair gives the empath time receipt, makes the empath feel guilty for remembering. And once she learns the difference, she becomes harder to fool. There is a woman staring at her phone after someone sends the apology. It sounds soft. It sounds familiar. It has the right words. I miss you. I did not mean it. You know I care. I was just upset. Can we please move past this? The old version of her would have softened immediately. She would have remembered the good. She would have missed the warmth. She would have told herself love is imperfect. She would have felt relief just because the coldness was ending. But this time, something inside her asks, did they understand the wound or do they just miss the access? That question protects her because some people miss you only when they lose what you gave them. They miss your patience, your listening, your forgiveness, your emotional labor, your body being near, your attention, your ability to make them feel less guilty about who they are. But missing what you provided is not the same as loving who you are. Some people did not love your heart. They loved the access your heart gave them. They loved that you would keep explaining instead of leaving. They loved that you would see their pain before your own exhaustion. They loved that you would forgive before you had finished hurting. They loved that you would stay available because guilt could still reach you. Then one day guilt stops working. And that is when the empath becomes dangerous to the pattern, not dangerous like revenge, dangerous like truth. Because when an empath woman stops pleasing the person who keeps crossing lines, the relationship has to face what it was built on. If it was built on mutual care, it can grow. If it was built on her silence, it begins to fall apart. There is another scene. She is sitting with a friend, family member, or partner who has gotten used to her always being the understanding one. They make a little comment, something disguised as a joke, maybe about her being too emotional, too sensitive, too intense, too independent, too difficult now. The room laughs lightly. She does not. She feels the old urge to smile, to make everyone comfortable, to prove she can take it. But this time she hears herself clearly. I am not laughing at my own wound anymore. That moment is an awakening because for years, she may have helped people disrespect her by pretending it did not hurt. She may have smiled when she wanted to cry. She may have said, it's okay, when her body was saying, no, it is not. She may have accepted small humiliations because calling them out felt like making trouble. But an empath does not become healed by staying easy to mistreat. She becomes healed when she stops helping people step over the lines she never had the courage to draw. The line is not always a dramatic betrayal. Sometimes the line is repeated dismissal. The line is being told she is too much every time she asks for basic care. The line is someone using her kindness as proof they can keep taking. The line is someone making her feel guilty for needs they never tried to meet. The line is someone calling her boundary an attitude because they preferred her without one. The line is when she realizes the relationship only feels peaceful when she abandons herself. That is the line. And once she sees it, love cannot make her blind again. She may still feel the pull. She may still miss them. She may still remember the beautiful moments. She may still cry for the version of the connection she hoped would become real. She may still wish things were different, but Missing someone does not mean the door should reopen. Love does not always mean access. Sometimes love means stepping back before the remaining softness turns into resentment. Sometimes love means refusing to become bitter by staying where you are being emptied. Sometimes love means saying, I care about you, but I will not keep betraying myself to prove it. You do not need to hate them to stop handing them your peace. There is a woman sitting alone in her kitchen after choosing not to reply. The room is quiet. Her tea has gone cold. Her hands are still trembling a little because choosing herself is not easy yet. She feels the ache of old habit, the old urge to explain, the old fear of being misunderstood, the old guilt that says, maybe you are being cruel, but beneath all of it, there is another feeling, a small, unfamiliar calm. She realizes nothing exploded because she did not chase. No one died because she did not explain. The world did not end because she did not make herself available to a pattern that keeps hurting her. For the first time, her silence belongs to her, not to punishment. Not to fear, not to avoidance, to peace. She did not choose loneliness. She chose peace. And peace can feel lonely at first when your nervous system is detoxing from chaos. That is why the first stage of boundary healing feels confusing. The empath thinks peace should feel easy immediately, but sometimes peace feels like grief first. You grieve the old version of yourself, the version who kept trying, the version who believed one more conversation might fix it, the version who thought if she loved harder, someone would become softer, the version who mistook being needed for being cherished. She cries for that woman, not because that woman was foolish, because that woman was tired. She was carrying love with no help. She was trying to make a home out of inconsistency. She was trying to earn gentleness from people who kept confusing her forgiveness with permission. She was not weak. She was alone with too much for too long. And when she finally stops, people may not understand. They may only see the boundary. They do not see the hundreds of quiet moments that created it. They do not see the night she sat on the bathroom floor, crying silently because she did not want to beg for comfort again. They do not see the morning she woke up with swollen eyes and still answered messages kindly. They do not see the times she defended someone in public who was privately breaking her peace. They do not see how many times she gave the benefit of the doubt while losing the benefit of her own safety. That is why she no longer needs everyone to understand. Understanding from people who benefit from misunderstanding is not freedom. Self-trust is freedom. There is a woman being judged by family. You are too sensitive. You cut people off too easily. You are hard now. You need to forgive. You cannot be alone forever. You should be more patient. She hears them, but she also hears what they are not asking. They are not asking what she endured. They are not asking how many times she forgave before she became quiet. They are not asking what it felt like to be the one who always understood but was rarely understood. They are not asking what part of her had to disappear so everyone else could keep calling the situation peaceful. They only see the line she finally drew. They do not see the times it was crossed before it became visible. So she stops defending her healing to people who only respect women when they are suffering silently. She does not need to make her boundary pretty. She does not need to make her pain acceptable. She does not need to explain why peace matters to a person addicted to chaos. She simply chooses the truth. And the truth is this: an empath can forgive everything until forgiveness starts becoming the place where self-respect goes to die. That is the line. When forgiveness becomes self-betrayal, the empath awakens. When another chance means another wound, she stops. When understanding them means abandoning herself, she stops. When love begins to require the death of her own peace, she stops. And the person who thought she would always stay is stunned by how quietly she can leave, because empaths often leave long before the door closes. They leave in small ways first. They stop sharing details. They stop asking questions. They stop sending long messages. They stop trying to be understood. They stop initiating. They stop bringing their full warmth into rooms where warmth is not protected. By the time she physically leaves, emotionally, she has already walked 1,000 miles. That is why her exit can seem sudden to others. It was not sudden. It was silent. It was built from every moment she swallowed, every time she was dismissed, every apology without change, every repeated wound, every night she realized she was more committed to the relationship than the relationship was committed to her well-being. There is another scene. She is in the same bed, but something is different. The other person reaches for her, speaks softly, tries to bring back the closeness that used to be easy, and she feels grief because part of her wishes she could return to the old softness. But her body does not move the same way. Her heart does not open on command anymore because the body remembers what the words want to skip. The body remembers the silence. The body remembers the disrespect. The body remembers how it felt to be alone beside them. A shared bed can still feel colder than an empty room. And once her body understands that, she stops calling closeness safe just because someone is near. This is where she becomes difficult to manipulate not because she becomes cruel, because she becomes honest with herself. She can still miss them and know they are not safe. She can still love them and know she cannot return. She can still forgive them and know access is over. She can still remember the good and refuse to let the good erase the whole story. That is emotional maturity. It is not bitter. It is balanced. Bitter says, everyone is bad. Mature says, I will not ignore what happened. Bitter says, I will never love again. Mature says, I will love where it is safe. Bitter says, I hate them. Mature says, I release them, but I will not keep abandoning myself for them. That is the difference. The empath woman who has crossed into maturity does not want revenge. She wants rest. She wants a life where her nervous system is not constantly translating someone else's inconsistency. She wants a love that does not make her feel guilty for having needs. She wants friendships where she is not only the listener. She wants family connections where love is not used as a leash. She wants peace that does not require her to perform being okay. And if that means she becomes less available, so be it. If that means some people call her cold, so be it. If that means certain doors close, so be it. A closed door can be holy when what is outside keeps trying to destroy what is inside. There is a woman locking her door at night. She has chosen not to return to the conversation, the relationship, the friendship, the family drama, the cycle. The lock clicks. The room is quiet. She feels a wave of sadness because healing still has grief inside it, but she also feels safe. That safety is new. She stands there for a moment and lets herself breathe. No one is demanding an explanation. No one is draining her with another crisis. No one is making her feel wrong for needing peace. No one is using her empathy as a doorway back into self-betrayal. Just her breath. Her home, her body learning that love is not supposed to feel like survival. That is what happens when the line is crossed and she finally honors it. She becomes a woman who can feel deeply without surrendering her entire life to what she feels. She becomes a woman who can forgive without forgetting the lesson. She becomes a woman who can be soft without being open to harm. She becomes a woman who can cry and still not go back. That last part matters. She can cry and still not go back. Because tears are not always a sign that the decision is wrong. Sometimes tears are the body releasing what the soul already knows it cannot carry anymore. There is a woman crying quietly before morning. She misses the person. She misses the hope. She misses the version of the relationship she imagined. She misses the feeling of believing it could still become beautiful, but she does not miss the pain. She does not miss the confusion. She does not miss the repeated conversations. She does not miss begging to be treated gently. She wipes her face. She gets up, not because she is over it, because she is choosing herself through it. That is strength, not the absence of pain. The refusal to let pain choose the same dangerous door. And this is how empaths stop forgiving everything in the old way. They stop using forgiveness as a bridge back into places that keep burning them. They stop confusing compassion with access. They stop turning every person's wound into a reason to tolerate their behavior. They stop letting people say, that's just how I am, as if it cancels out the damage they cause. They begin to ask better questions. Is this person repairing or only apologizing? Do I feel safe or just relieved that the conflict paused? Does this connection honor my softness or consume it? Am I forgiving because I am free or forgiving because I am afraid to leave? Does staying here make me more myself or less? Those questions become a gate, and not everyone gets through. This is not arrogance. This is discernment. She is not hard to love. She is hard to control, and the people who benefited from her lack of boundaries may not know the difference. They may call her selfish because she is no longer selfless in a way that serves them. They may call her distant because she no longer lets them stand close enough to keep hurting her. They may call her unforgiving because she forgave without reopening the wound for them to touch again. Let them. A woman does not need to be understood by the people who are comfortable with her pain. She needs to be loyal to the truth her body has been telling her. The practical step is simple, but not easy. When someone crosses the line, do not rush to explain from panic. Do not immediately send the paragraph. Do not soften the boundary before it has a chance to protect you. Pause. Ask yourself, did they not know or did they know and choose it anyway? Is this a mistake or is it a pattern? Does their apology come with changed behavior or only a request for access? Do I feel peaceful or pressured? Then speak one clear sentence. I forgive you, but I cannot keep giving access to a pattern that keeps hurting me. That sentence may change everything because it separates forgiveness from permission. It tells the truth without attacking. It protects the heart without turning cruel. It gives closure to the old version of you who thought love meant endless chances. And after you say it, let your behavior protect it. Do not negotiate your own boundary because someone dislikes it. Do not prove your goodness by making yourself available. Again, do not return to the same fire because someone says they are cold. A person who truly wants repair will respect the boundary they made necessary. A person who only wants control will punish you for having it. Watch what happens after your no. Your no will reveal what your yes was hiding. There's one more scene. She is standing in front of a mirror, not dressed for anyone, not performing strength, just looking at herself after a season that took more than people know. She sees tired eyes, but also truth. She sees softness, but also a spine. She sees the woman who used to apologize for having limits and the woman who now knows limits are part of love. She whispers, I forgive myself, not them, herself, for staying too long, for explaining too much, for ignoring her body, for mistaking endurance for devotion, for believing that being chosen by someone else mattered more than being safe within herself. That forgiveness is the one she needed most, because many empaths are quick to forgive others and slow to forgive themselves. They carry shame for the time they lost, the signs they ignored, the chances they gave, the love they poured into people who kept emptying them. But healing does not begin with self-punishment. It begins with self-return. She returns to the woman she abandoned trying to be loved. She returns to the voice she swallowed trying to keep peace. She returns to the body she ignored trying to be fair. She returns to the life she postponed while waiting for someone else to become safe. She is not waiting to be rescued. She is rebuilding the woman she abandoned for everyone else. And that rebuilt woman is different. She still loves. She still cares. She still feels the sadness in another person's eyes. She still wants deep connection. She still believes in kindness. But her kindness no longer comes without a boundary. Her forgiveness no longer comes without discernment. Her love no longer requires her disappearance. She can want love without accepting control. She can feel lonely without becoming desperate. She can miss companionship without tolerating disrespect. She can be soft without being available for pain. She can live alone for a season without being empty. She can forgive without handing over the key. That is what people learn when they cross the line with an empath. They learn that her heart was never weak. It was patient. They learned that her silence was never ignorance. It was hope. They learned that her forgiveness was never permission. It was grace. And grace, when abused, eventually becomes a closed door. Not because the empath wants revenge, because the empath finally wants peace. Empaths forgive everything until you cross this line is not about one mistake. It is about the moment someone takes her softness for granted after she trusted them with it. You cross the line when you made her feel unsafe in the very place she once gave you access to her heart.